So it's apparently incredibly hard to decide what to say when you've been away for 5 months and made no videos. One of the things that happened was I moved and I decided to get new bookshelves. So right now I'm sitting in front of my to-be-read shelf, which is insane. I don't even know how many books I have on here. I just know that I have a lot. On the other side of the room, I have my books that I've actually read, which I separated into genre for the first time ever. I've never done that before. So we'll see what happens with that if I keep it that way. I think I like it, but there are all these gaps in my shelves. It doesn't look nice. So I don't want to bore you with details of why I haven't been around, but needless to say, it was just really difficult to film for a long time, and life got a little busy, and moving sucks, and my books were in boxes for weeks and weeks, or it felt like a long time, but I think it was actually only 3 weeks, but you know. Anyway, I thought it would be good to just start off with a video about what I've been reading while I was gone. I could have gone to watch the last video I posted to see what I talked about in that video, but I am too lazy right now. So I'm just going to start with the last book I finished right before I stopped posting. I believe that book was A Conjuring of Light by Schwab. I know I talked about the other 2 books in the series on my channel, and I think I briefly talked on Twitter if you follow me there. Sometimes I tweet about what I'm reading. And I really enjoyed the last book. It was long, and there were definitely still some things about the series that I didn't love, but it was fun to read the end of the series and just to kind of enjoy the characters and their endings, because I know there are no other books coming in the Shades of Magic series. So that was really fun, and I was at that point kind of interested in reading more fantasy because it was just such a delight to read. But before I started to get back to fantasy, I decided to I decided to read The Stars Are Legion by Cameron Hurley. I've never read any of her work before, but I heard so much about this book, and I know that there are a lot of people who loved it, and I was definitely one of those people. So I enjoyed reading The Stars Are Legion. I enjoyed a world with only women that was unique, and everything was so foreign in that book. It was really wonderful. I'm going to link a review below. Brock at Let's Read talked about it, and his review is perfect. One thing he talked about was that it gets kind of gory, and I'm really sensitive to things like that, so I am really surprised that it didn't bother me, but when I was sitting there, I thought back to some of the things that happened in the book, and it was very gory. It was bloody, partially because all of the women in this universe kind of birth parts for the worlds that they live on. They're like organic worlds, but they kind of have moving parts, and women birth them. So you get to read about that. But I mean, I know this book has been out for a while, but I definitely recommend it if you're interested in some sci-fi. It's got a very, very interesting story. And since it's all about women and there are only women in the society, there are a lot of queer relationships, lesbian relationships. So if you're into all that, you should definitely read that book. So the next book kind of covers a lot of books that I read recently. I realized that Emma Newman had written 2 more books in her Split World series, and I think I read the first 3 several years ago, probably my first year on BookTube. So I decided it would be a good time to reread the books. I didn't want to miss anything. I didn't remember much from the books. So over the past 2 months, I finished the entire series. I enjoyed rereading the first 3 books. I didn't love the 4th book, but the last book definitely delivered. It was really exciting, and there was a great conclusion, and I just really enjoyed reading the end of the story, but it was a long trudge. And I felt like some of it dragged a lot, especially when it came to the main character, Kathy, who, you know, she cares very much about women's rights, which is valid, very important in that world and in our world. But it was just the way she talked about it, it struck me as a little bit shallower than what I would have liked. And she made very little progress for most of the series, so it was really frustrating to read that. But other than that, it's really fun, and the series is done now, so if you like kind of urban-ish fantasy, it's a fun series with good characters. And then somewhere in between there, I read Carrie Fisher's last memoir, The Princess Diarist, which I thought was really interesting. I think She has such a great voice and such a like no bullshit attitude, and I just loved reading her story about her life on the set of Star Wars and after they filmed the movies and how it impacted her. There's a whole section in the middle that contains her poetry from when she was on set and having an affair with Harrison Ford, and I didn't love that quite as much, but I don't read a lot of poetry, even though I do appreciate it, so that wasn't my favorite part. It took up kind of a pretty big chunk of the book, but anyway, a pretty good memoir and definitely worth a read, especially if you're a fan of Star Wars. That pretty much brings us up to now. I'm rereading The Magicians because I watched the sci-fi series on Netflix. I watched the first 2 seasons and I thought it would be interesting to go back and kind of see how well the adaptation fit with the book. And I'm glad I'm doing it because I think when I went into it, I had expectations the very first time, and I really, really, really thought Quentin was the devil. Now, I realize that he gets worse. Like, he totally gets worse. But in the first book, he's not as bad as I remember him being, which makes the TV show version of Quentin less jarring because the TV show version is less of a jerk, less of a selfish asshole. And yeah, it's really, I don't know, I like rereading and I love making comparisons and watching how things are adapted. So I am enjoying that, and I hope to be able to make a video about it. So that's something I've been wanting to do for a really long time. I am hoping to make more videos. I'm going to do my best. And I'm also hoping to do a giveaway. I passed 5,000 subscribers while I was gone. Thank you so much to everyone who subbed. I know I'm going to lose people because I've been gone for so long. That's okay. But I just appreciate people sticking around. So anyway, yeah, I think that's about it, I guess. Hopefully I will see you guys later, and leave a comment and let me know what you've been reading and if there's anything I missed, or if you have any recommendations. I would love to hear them, and I'll see you next time. Bye.